In this lecture, we're going to talk about parameters and how to specify them in a request. As we saw in the previous lesson, the API responds with a long list of the exchange rates of many currencies quoted against the euro. However, sometimes we may be interested in only a particular currency, or we may need to exchange it to other than euro. For that purpose, the documentation of the API states two parameters that we can pass: symbols and base. The first one lets us choose which currencies to keep, while the second one defines the base currency. So far, so good. And yet the question remains, how do we specify these parameters? Since APIs are up on the World Wide Web, they may be accessed similar to a web page. So, to specify a parameter, we incorporate it in the URL itself. To signify this, a question mark is appended at the end of the base URL. All the parameters come after it, separated by an ampersand. To specify the value of a parameter, we use an equal sign. For now, we will limit ourselves to the symbols parameter only. So if we are only interested in the exchange rates of the US dollar and pound sterling, we need to append the string to the base URL as per the documentation. Here's the question mark, that's the parameter, and its value after the equal sign. The full URL looks like this. It's very important to note that each API has its own documentation and thus its own parameters and possible values. Therefore, remember you should always get familiar with the documentation prior to using an API. Okay, let's proceed with the request as usual. Status code 200 again indicates everything is in order. Thus, we may save the converted JSON response to the variable data. Remember that this is a dictionary, which means we can access its key values. Here is the base currency, the date for which it is valid, and the rates dictionary. This time, however, it contains only the two desired currencies. All right. Given those two rates, we could, in principle, calculate the conversion rate of dollar to pound. According to the documentation, though, we do not need to perform this calculation, as the API provides a base parameter just in that case. So, this time, we have only GBP in symbols and USD in base. Recall that we separate two or more parameters in a URL with the ampersand sign. Now we have to make a request to that URL and collect the response information. We can combine these steps into one by appending the JSON method to the end of the request. Thus, after obtaining the response data, we can find the desired rate by accessing the rates dictionary and then the currency key. Okay. This was a quick example of how to add parameters to your GET request. Next up, we will explore some more of the functionality that this API provides. Thanks for watching.